In this episode of the Nurse Practitioner Podcast, Dr. Efrat LaMandre discusses bridging the RN-NP gap. Dr. Efrat LaMandre is a public speaker and best-selling author with over 5 million followers on various platforms. Dr. Efrat LaMandre, or Dr. E as everyone calls her, is a medical disruptor, disrupting and reshaping healthcare. Dr. E is a trailblazer in nurse practitioner education, spearheading EG Prep, an innovative company dedicated to equipping nurse practitioner students with the clinical confidence needed for excellence in primary care. Through EG Prep, Dr. E offers a comprehensive program that bridges the gap between academia and practice. In addition, Dr. E owns and operates EG Healthcare, a medical practice serving over 20,000 patients across pediatric, adult, and geriatric spectrums. She also founded Hawk Scribes, a medical scribe company to help providers focus on their patients instead of their charts. Dr. E's influence extends to her local community as well, as she serves as the chair of the Staten Island Hospital Board of Trustees and is also clinical faculty at Wagner College. Thanks so much for joining us today, Dr. E.
Oh my goodness, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
First, why is this even a topic of discussion?
I love this question of why this is even a topic of discussion, because the title itself, right? It's a heavy title, why the seamless transition into NP role matters. I couldn't figure out a catchier title, but the reason this is really important is because we have a national crisis that's happening right now and only getting worse, which is the primary care shortage. We have many physicians retiring, not enough new doctors stepping in to replace them. So we have this widening gap, this primary care shortage nationwide, which is resulting in limited access to care, increased wait time. It's straining the entire healthcare system, especially in underserved areas. So now we have NPs who are stepping up to fill this critical gap with their advanced training, their ability to provide comprehensive care. NPs are taking on more and more PCP roles, which, yes, improves access to healthcare, again, reduces the wait time, ensures that patients receive services. Nurse practitioners have become crucial to our national healthcare system, especially when it comes to tackling this primary care shortage. As I said, NPs are well prepared to handle a wide range of patient needs, from preventative care to chronic conditions. But it's not just about filling the gaps, it's also about enhancing the quality of care, because NPs bring a different approach to primary care, a comprehensive approach that covers diagnosis, treatment, follow-up. And this is especially important for our elderly population and for those living in underserved communities. And studies have shown that nurse practitioners help keep healthcare costs down by providing effective and efficient care. So not only are we filling this gap, we're actually improving costs, improving outcomes. As our population grows and as this shortage increases, the role of NPs becomes integral. They're not just supplementary. They don't have a supplementary role. They are central to the delivery of healthcare services. So it's critical that we ensure that our NP students step into this role, because this role has become more important than ever.
With this impending shortage, how many NPs do we have and how many are expecting to graduate?
But right now, we have over 385,000 NPs licensed across the country. And that's a huge testament to the vital role that they play in our system. And each year, we're seeing about 39,000 new NPs stepping up right out of school. So if this trend holds up, we're expected to welcome about 195,000 to 200,000 new NPs over the next 5 years. And as I said, this influx is crucial, not just to fill the gaps, but especially in primary care, but to also to enhance the quality of primary care available to communities across the country.
Will this be enough to manage the shortage?
So with this 39,000 new practitioners graduating each year, we are making good strides in addressing the primary care shortage, right? This influx of new NPs is a beacon of hope, but let's be clear, it's not a magic bullet. The healthcare landscape is complex, and while these numbers are promising, they alone are not going to solve the entire issue, the shortage that we have, right? Because you want to think about it, our population is growing, our population is aging, healthcare needs are becoming more complex, and at the same time, we have all these seasoned professionals who are retiring. The Bureau of Labor and Statistics projects an incredible 52% growth in the demand for nurse practitioners from 2020 to 2030, which means that even with about 200,000 NPs about to enter the field over the next 5 years, we're still going to have not enough. We still have our work cut out for us. So we need to keep pushing for more educational opportunities, broader scopes of practice, better integration of NPs into primary care roles, especially in underserved areas, because it's about building a robust workforce that's ready and able to meet the diverse needs of our communities.
So we have a shortage, and we have NPs who are going to fill this shortage, yet not every NP that graduates actually works as an NP. I believe this is referred to as the RN-NP gap. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, we've got like a real issue here because we're training more nurse practitioners than ever. But when they graduate, not all of them are stepping into these roles. And there's a few reasons of why this happens. This is what we're talking about when we say the RN-NP gap. So for some, depending on the state, it's a scope of practice issue, right? So in some states, the rules are just so tight, NPs cannot practice independently, whether that's if it's physician oversight. And this can be discouraging because not everybody wants that oversight, or it's too expensive to get a collaborating physician. So some people just say, hey, I'll just stay as an RN. There's economic factors because the financial leap from RN to NP isn't always significant, right? We have this thing in our mind that, oh, once I become an NP, I will make significantly more. Now, sometimes that's the case. Sometimes the salary bump from RN to NP is significant enough to go ahead and get yourself out there. But sometimes you don't really see a big difference. And without that increase in pay bump, it doesn't outweigh the added stress and responsibility. So some nurses decide to just stay where they are as RNs. And then the third factor is clinical confidence. And this is a biggie because when you transition from RN to NP, it's not just about passing exams. It's about feeling confident in making decisions on the fly, diagnosing conditions, managing patients solo. And building this kind of confidence takes time and real world experience. And without it, even fully qualified NPs sometimes hesitate to step into that new role where they're the primary decision maker.
What solutions are currently out there to help manage some of these issues?
Sure. So each issue has its own solution, right? So when the scope of law issue, I'm sure all our listeners know that we are trying very proactively to make waves, right? More than half of the states in this country have already changed their laws. Several states are reevaluating and amending regulations. And there's an overall legislative shift to enable NPs to utilize their skills in training fully. So the scope of law issue is kind of happening with your organizations and happening with your lobbyists. And as I said, we're over 50% of the states have already kind of shifted there. When it comes to economic factors, things to consider, again, not so much within our hands to change, but there are initiatives out there like loan forgiveness programs. So I hear NPs who are, if they go into underserved areas, though there are organizations that will pay back all their loans for the NP school as long as they stay in that underserved area. So it might not be a bump in pay, but just having those loans forgiven is significant. There are also competitive salary adjustments that are being made across the board because of this recognition. So these measures all aim to address this compensation disparities and incentivize more RNs to transition into the NP role. There are also some companies out there that are really taking this head on and renegotiating contracts for NPs. There's a company called Duet. You guys could check it out. It's called joinduet.com that you might want to reach out to. This is especially for NPs who own their own practice. The point of mentioning this program and companies like this is to let you know that if you are kind of in the throes of it and you want to own your own practice, there are organizations out there that can help you with the economic factors. And for the third challenge, which is the challenge of building clinical confidence, right? I want to just make sure that when I talk about that, building clinical confidence, because I don't want anyone to take this out of context, I'm not highlighting a deficiency. I'm not saying that there's a deficiency in the education or anything, or a deficiency in the preparedness of the NPs. I think what we're talking about is it's a natural transition, right? All NPs started off as RNs, right? They got comfortable. They're part of a broader team with a lot of support. Stepping into an NP role can sometimes feel like moving from like the backup singer to the lead vocalist. It's the same stage, but the spotlight is definitely more intense. And this adjustment period is normal, and it doesn't reflect like inadequacy in their skills or training, it just underscores the need for a more supportive environment that fosters this confidence. Okay. And it's really important. It's about giving them the tools and the backing that they need to succeed, not just at their start, but throughout their careers. So I own a company called EG Prep Education, which I'll talk about in a moment. And it's a company that is designed to help build that clinical confidence, to help bridge this gap. We provide targeted training that reinforces what NPs know, what they learned in school, and we teach them to extend it into practical application. And all of it is about transforming that knowledge that you learned in school and transforming it into how to act with confidence using that knowledge. And this support is crucial for NPs to not just perform, but excel in their roles and ensure that they can provide the best care possible. Right. So I just want to make sure that we frame this discussion of clinical confidence as to what it truly is, which is it's a fundamental part of growing and advancing in the healthcare field, which ultimately benefits everyone, especially the patients.
Can you tell us a bit more about this company, EG Prep Education?
Sure. So EG Prep Education, egprep.com, it's a company that I own and founded. And it's because I know this issue exists because I lived it, right? I went from RN to NP and I wished I had the support needed to gain the clinical confidence. I was a great student. I was a great nurse. I excelled in my rotations. I did well on my boards, but no one prepares you for that moment when you're all on your own. And eventually I opened up my own practice. And then I started mentoring other students. And I discovered that this was not just my experience. This is something that so many NP students contend with. And so initially I trained them one by one. And then I realized that I need to create EG Prep and create a curriculum that is designed specifically to build clinical confidence, right? I don't need to reteach you everything. You did wonderfully on your exams. I need to help you build that confidence.
What's different about this curriculum as compared with other NP prep courses out there?
Oh, that's such a good question. So there are a lot of great companies out there. And what I've discovered is that there is this missing piece. So on the one hand, there are a lot of programs to help students pass the test, which is important and necessary. And then there are a lot of courses for more seasoned NPs, how to manage things with maybe more nuance. But there seems to be this niche right here of students who are either just graduating or about to graduate. And they don't just need test prep, right? They need this clinical confidence piece. And also, by the way, this is not just for students. Sometimes we have NPs who maybe took a break to have a family, or maybe they have been specializing in dermatology for a while and they want to come back in and they don't want to relearn everything. They just want to get that, that feeling that they're riding that bicycle again, right? That confidence again. So we created a robust library of videos that are specifically designed with this issue of clinical confidence in mind, right? There is such a need for this that several institutions have made our courses mandatory for their students in an effort to help bridge this gap. And they actually, many of them have tied it at the same time that the students are in the clinical rotations so that they can practice this newfound clinical confidence during the rotations. So what makes these courses unique is that every lesson is practical. It focuses on the chief complaint, right? That's because that's what you have to deal with. When a patient doesn't come in and say, I'm having a heart attack, sometimes, but they usually say, my chest hurts. And then you have to figure out, does this chest hurt mean I have to send you to the ER? Or does this chest hurt mean I have to give you a Tylenol, right? So that is where the clinical confidence comes in. It's like, ooh, what do I do? How do I manage it? So each course is designed around a chief complaint that the NP has to figure out in a matter of minutes, a matter of seconds. Is this the chest pain I can send home? Or is this the chest pain I need to send to the ER? And that's a lot of information to assimilate all in one moment. So you could have done great on your exams, but to assimilate all that information and make that decision is a different skill set. And our courses help the NP learn clinical reasoning to make this type of determination. We use a unique formula that we have our students apply again and again and again to each chief complaint to help the NP learn a method of medical decision-making that can be used every patient, every time.
You performed a pilot study on the efficacy of EG Prep, especially as it relates to its impact on DEI. Can you explain what any of this has to do with DEI?
Absolutely. Let's unpack the unique hurdles that NPs from economically disadvantaged backgrounds face during their transition from RN, right? And it's really understand what's going on. For many RNs stepping up to become NPs, the journey isn't just about academic steps. It's climbing a mountain while also balancing your life responsibilities, right? Especially for those coming from economically disadvantaged backgrounds, this climb can be steeper. There's a financial strain of advanced education, and it's not just about tuition. It's books, it's technology, it's the lost hours at work, can't pick up extra shifts. So it's a significant investment, not just of money, but of time and energy. And these aspiring NPs might find themselves hitting barriers when it comes to accessing resources they need, whether it's advanced training programs, something as simple as stable internet connection for online classes, and support systems. And mentorship and professional networks can be game changers for anyone, but especially for NPs because they can offer guidance and open doors that might otherwise seem locked. And mentorship and professional networks, it's not just a theory, right? We need that for our rotations. Our NP students need to get rotation sites. They need to get good quality rotation sites because the type of mentorship that they can get in these rotation sites and during these rotations really are game changers of how they will gain that clinical confidence we talked about earlier when they head out. And it's clear that for some students from disadvantaged backgrounds, they're not going to have the same opportunity to get the same type of rotations or same quality of rotations as others. So we have to address these challenges. We have to recognize that these challenges exist and we have to address them. So what we did at EG Prep is we proposed that using a tool like ours for all students across the board can actually level that playing field. Because if every student has access to a course that is specifically designed to improve clinical confidence and everyone can use it regardless of the background, it can help students gain the edge that they need in that clinical confidence and get them up to par. And we hope to do a larger scale study this year.
Going back to the primary care shortage, what could healthcare systems do to help RNs transition into their roles as NPs?
This is a great question because if we recognize that this is a national problem, we are going to have to turn to our healthcare systems to really get involved here. Healthcare systems can empower RNs transitioning to NPs by offering support, whether it's mentorship from experienced NPs when they come in, or flexible scheduling, educational leave so that they can maintain a balance between work and study, and removing any type of barriers that allows them to complete their education. Financial support through scholarship, tuition reimbursement. I know a lot of hospitals do that, and it's very, very helpful. It gets the RNs, and for some RNs, it's really that tuition reimbursement that gets them to decide to go back to school. On-the-job training leverages the healthcare environment as well. And incorporating comprehensive programs like EG Prep into the NP school curriculum really ensures that RNs aren't just passing exams, but they're being thoroughly prepared for their new roles. And lastly, and this is true for any job that you have, you need a supportive workplace culture that celebrates education and development and can inspire continual growth and excellence. By embedding all these strategies from the healthcare system, the workplace, the educational system, we are not just filling position, we're fostering a new generation of healthcare leaders ready and equipped to deliver top-notch care.
Finally, can you tell us a little more about why all this matters?
Absolutely. All this entire conversation about making sure our NPs are our RNs are transitioning into the role of NP, it's really all about access to care. Solving this problem and getting more NPs out there means that more people have access to care. So look at my practice, e.g. healthcare. It not only cares for everyone in the community, but it also has a focus on the LGBTQ community. And we also have a program for the elderly who are homebound. So these are two services that do not exist in my geographic area, and it is only provided by a team of NPs. And as I travel the country and talk to other NPs, I hear these stories over and over again of NPs who are taking care of their communities that no one else is taking care of. The NP taking care of the Haitian community, the NP taking care of the Albanian community, the NP who does house calls for people who are homebound, the NP taking care of the trans community. We are actually out there not only solving the primary care shortage, but really and truly bringing care to the communities who do not usually get care at all. So this is the bottom line. Whether you like it or not, NPs are here to stay, although I'm pretty sure the audience here likes it. But I say this wherever I go. NPs are here to stay. We are the only solution to the impending crisis. We provide amazing care to our communities and expand access to people who otherwise would go without. So if you're an NP student, you can find egprep.com, sign up for one of our classes, help you boost the clinical confidence that you need. If you're a faculty or a dean in a nursing program, please reach out to us and let's see how we can get this program into your school. Together, we can fix this problem.
Thanks so much for your time today, Dr. E. It's always a pleasure.
Likewise, thank you for having me.
For more great content from the Nurse Practitioner, be sure to visit us online at tnpj.com for the latest NCPD articles, columns, and much more. Please leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and Spotify, as it helps with the podcast's visibility and helps us to keep bringing you this great content. Also, don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at the Nurse Practitioner Journal, and on Twitter at TNPJ_journal. Thanks for listening. This podcast does not constitute medical advice and should not be taken as such, and does not replace professional judgment or advice. The ideas and viewpoints expressed on this podcast do not reflect the official position of the speakers, authors, affiliated organizations, the Nurse Practitioner Journal, or Wolters Kluwer. Please note that the hosts of the Nurse Practitioner Podcast are not clinicians. However, we created the Nurse Practitioner Podcast to bring you relevant clinical information by NPs for NPs. Thanks again for listening.